Welcome back. You're still watching Weekend Live on SABC2. Now, almost time for us to say goodbye. But in this week's focus on design and architecture, we go to the John Moffat Building at Wits University, which houses the institution's architecture and design faculty and pretty much significant campus life. The John Moffat Building was built to celebrate the memory of respected architect John Moffat, a favorite for architect Sundeep Jivan.
We're at the Wits University, we're at the School of Architecture and Planning outside the John Moffat Building. This is one of my favorite buildings in Johannesburg. The John Moffat Building was named after John Moffat, a famous architect who passed away in Joburg and stipulated in his will that money needs to be donated to the university and used for some sort of permanent structure. The university inherited probably about £100,000 for this building, and in the 50s it was decided by the university to build a school of architecture and planning. And the building was basically designed by members of the staff that worked together to design the John Moffat Building that we see today. The building has links to modernism. It links back to Brazil, and how modernism developed outside of Europe. That's not the reason the building is very important to me. The reason it's more important to me is because of how it functions at an everyday level in terms of daily space for students to work in and to interact in, and also how it creates one of the really nice social places on campus. As you can see, there are a couple of links. There are a couple of things we need to look at with this building. When this building was built, it wasn't part of any style. The idea was to try and create a building that wouldn't necessarily age. If we look at the finishes and even the way the building is laid out, everything in this building is laid out on a very specific module. It's a 5'6" module that the architects use. So it's a very disciplined, careful, controlled building. If we have a look at the building, we can see that from the layout of the columns to the size of the windows, as well as to the decorative panels that we have on the building. These extend on all sides of the building, and ironically, that discipline and that focus actually contributes to a really wonderful social space, as you can see. One of the most interesting things that this building does on campus when it was built was to create a social space. The building is in the shape of a T, and what that T does is obviously create spaces that are framed by the building. One of the most beautiful spaces is the space framed by the office block on that side and by this wing, which basically houses the lecture halls and the entrance foyer. What it does is basically create this social space. Each of these trees that are planted here, as well as these benches, the paving, the size of the pond, was all worked out according to the module that the architects laid out when the building was designed. They also realized that this here is obviously the social side of the building, and it was about being seen and about inviting people into the building. You'll notice a stark contrast to what we see on this facade, and we go around to the building on the northern facades. What we see on this facade is a very soft edge to the building. From the pond right down to where the seating is, that seating was consciously designed that way to create an interactive space. On the upper level, we have the library, and right above, we have the balcony. Those are office spaces, but this entire space was meant to be social. The use of large panes of glass on this facade makes sense because we're not exposed to harsh north light. And it also allows anybody who's sitting at the pond, there's an interaction between what happens inside the building and what people are doing outside.